Good evening, everybody. This is Justin Coffin for the 330 Sports Show. Appreciate you tuning in. We are live here. It is about 9:35 here on a Tuesday night, October 28th. Last night, we just had our sports equinox. Right now, we got the Toronto Blue Jays up 2-1 on the LA Dodgers. So I'm just going to give you a little brief intro. I'm going to bring in Greg here in a couple minutes, but here's what's going to be on our show today. So we have the Browns, obviously, at the bye week. We're going to get into the Cleveland Browns as we always do each and every week. They are 2-6 right now, struggling, but that's kind of where we thought they'd be right now. But we're going to get into that. Ohio State coming off its bye week. Ends the season right now 7-0, number one team in the country. Like I said, 7-0. They got Penn State this weekend. Big noon game on Fox. We'll talk about that. They're 20.5-point favorite for that game. So we'll get into that game. We'll talk some college football in general. We'll talk a little Youngstown State as well. The Penguins take on the number one team in the country in North Dakota State. They upset them. I believe it was back in 2011 when they were the previous number one team in the country. But North Dakota State is as the kids would say, a wagon. But they are a legit juggernaut in the sport. And the Penguins have their hands full. We'll talk a little bit about that. We will get into the Cleveland Cavaliers here in just a little bit. But before we do that, there's been a ton of sports news, a bunch of firings in college football. We'll touch on that. But before we do, let me bring on Greg here. Greg, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. So, we're kind of watching Shohei Ohtani pitch and hit. Well, I'm hoping for a Dodgers over and win, just for some selfish betting reasons. But like Greg was texting me earlier, this is something tonight that you might not ever see again in your lifetime. There's a really good chance the Dodgers are going to make the World Series over Shohei Ohtani's career plenty, but he reached base, 9 times last night? Nine times. As Ed Rooney might say about Ferris Bueller, but he's actually up right now. I can, against former, he just went down against, I don't know if Bieber's still in the game or not, but
yeah, he is. He's pitching a hell of a game.
Yeah, Bieber's pitching pretty well, but yeah, again, Shohei Ohtani's doing stuff right now that we've never seen in our lifetimes. We've heard about Babe Ruth and stuff like that, but so that game, we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll talk about that series. The Dodgers up 2-1 right now, looking to go up a commanding 3-1 lead. But before we get into the Browns, Buckeyes, Penguins, Cavs, all that good stuff, I do want to talk about the NBA ambling stuff. All this. This was a big FBI deal. Like, they came down hard on the WNBA, the NBA, and some of its prominent, of sitting head coach in Chauncey Billups. A guy with Youngstown ties in Terry Rozier, grew up right here in Youngstown, and then moved up to Cleveland. Spent a lot of his career with Charlotte Hornets, a little bit with Miami Heat, but we'll talk about him. And then some of the four, I legitly thought the Mafia was a thing of the past. We've talked about the Sopranos plenty on these podcasts. We've talked about like the former Youngstown Mafia and mob, but like there's still 4 huge New York mob families that I read about in this article. And like, the names are what you would think, like the Gambino family, and there's 3 others, but it's unbelievable. So Greg, before we get into that, like what's your initial thoughts on like this whole Chauncey Billups, NBA gambling ring, kind of insider trading stuff like that? What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, think obviously now it's easy to look back and say you could kind of see this coming, but with it's a slippery slope, right? You have all these gambling websites like prominently featured in any professional sports and a lot of college sports telecasts, just right there. I mean, shit, you watch the Cavs play on FanDuel Network, and it's a
Yeah.
FanDuel parlay of the game and all this. You can bet props, you can bet on pitches, you can bet on, 3-minute stretches of a basketball game and things like that. And, one thing we know is you can really never underestimate the greed of people or what people might do when they get into a pinch. So,
Yep.
Clearly the opportunities are out there. I think, to think that it's easy to do is clearly not. I think, we saw it with Class A and Luis Ortiz, like these sites are monitoring activity. So, I mean,
Right.
there's no free money to be made. And, and ultimately the books like to win. So when they're losing and somebody else is winning, they're going to look at it and see what the hell's going on. But this whole thing is crazy. Like the impacts clearly to some competitive things in the NBA. And I'm not sure with Billups, I think there's some questions about like what he may have done from a substitution pattern standpoint and how this could be straight up like a Pete Rose kind of thing. But the poker stuff is really also the fascinating side of it, like straight out of like an Ocean's 11 type, like,
Yes.
Using technology to rig poker games and, honestly, like swindling people out of significant dollars. I mean,
and from
bucks.
And I think this was Kash Patel, who is like the director of the FBI, came out and like he was speaking and he's like saying we're not talking hundreds, we're not talking thousands, we're not talking tens of thousands, we're not talking hundreds of thousands, we're talking like tens of millions of dollars that were lost, stolen, basically.
Stolen, essentially, yeah.
And whatever your political affiliation is, if you're getting hustled out of some significant money, that's a big deal.
And this frankly would have, I'm sure this investigation predated the current administration too. It's when the FBI comes swarming in the middle of the night and arrests however many people they arrested. Yes, we all say like, okay, you're innocent until proven guilty, and let's let the legal process play out. But clearly, like, there is an overwhelming amount of evidence accumulated over an extremely long period of time that led to this, and it's not good for those who are involved. And I think, like you see, there's probably going to be, as there always is with these things, opportunities to rat or be informants and turn, kind of, they always want to get to the top of like, you get to the top of the chain and figure out kind of who the ringleader overall is. But, clearly for these guys and any involvement they'll ever have with the NBA again is that's done. And that's a shame.
And you had brought up Clase and Ortiz, which as Cleveland fans, that put a huge dent in the Guardian season. You lose your third or fourth best starter, or whatever you want to say, but you lose the best closer in baseball for probably ever. If they're, and who knows who's making money off of this. I'm sure the FBI has, some, texts or threads or whatever it might be. They have some information. And obviously baseball does, because, they're still under investigation. No one is cleared in that. So I don't expect to see Ortiz or Clase in a Cleveland uniform, let alone in any Major League Baseball uniform the rest of their career. And that's a shame, because who knows, if this is for like, making like 20, 30,000 bucks, it's like you got your whole career ahead of you. You could be making millions. So just a shame there. So a couple things here. John Doe in one of the cases, I believe it was like, they knew John Doe 1, John Doe 2, whatever it was. But like, as I said earlier, in one specific poker game, you and I are used to playing poker games. We'll buy in for 25, maybe 50 bucks for like a big one or something like that. But like, we're talking this John Doe lost $1.8 million in one game. One game. So they're Chauncey Billups, they almost said he was used as like bait to get some of these guys that are like sports betting nerds or like big fans or whatever to come to the table to play. And then I guess what was happening was they were using these illegal card shuffling systems. The card shuffling was on the up and up, but it would alert someone who had the best hand. So that would already give them the, the odds on advantage of, just strictly numbers based on, hey, this guy's got a 45% chance of winning versus your 8% hand or whatever it might be. So just some crazy stuff. Obviously, Michael Porter Jr.'s brother is basically banned from the league for basically like faking injuries to get his unders for the Toronto Raptors last year. Damon Jones, a former Cavs player. I feel like all these guys are former Cavs, which is unfortunate, or some ties to Youngstown or Cleveland.
Yeah.
But like Damon Jones was apparently alerting other people that, hey, player number 3, LeBron James is not named in this, not implicated in this, but by the like statistics, by the information given, basically they're saying player number 3 in this indictment is LeBron James. You could read between the lines and saying like he's not going to play, which, hey, that's going to affect the line, which is probably going to affect the Lakers losing versus, so if you want to bet on the other team, that's a good time to do it. So so just some crazy shit. I don't know if you've heard anything else on this, but that's pretty much what I've heard. But there was just some really interesting stuff, and I just thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, and you kind of wonder if it's the tip of the iceberg, and if there's going to be more of this that comes out in other sports, or it just feels like, again, if there's, especially when you get the mob involved too, and and the opportunity to kind of rig something to make some money, that's really what organized crime is all about. I mean, it goes back to some of the point shaving scandals that were out there. I mean, it's really no different, except now it's easy. It used to be like you'd have to shave points to cover a spread. Now it's like shit. Like all you need to do is get less than 3 assists, and
you're right.
You can come up lame. You can come up. You can do whatever. You could. I mean, it's some of the Rozier highlights of one of the games in question. I mean, it looked like he was like.
Ironically, I think that was against the Cavs.
Against the Cavs, yeah. I mean, it's just like, make a few bad passes, make a few bad decisions. You'll probably get pulled from the game, and just be ineffective or whatever. It's like you just realize how it really brings to the forefront like how easy this is to do in theory. But at the same time, like on the other end, there's so much monitoring that's happening behind the scenes that if all of a sudden, all of a sudden this prop, like there's $100,000 that's been wagered on this stupid prop, it's like, that's going to set off red flags. But I guess for little bites at the apple, you could do it. So
and that's what I think it's going to eventually come down to. Like, Greg and I just. We took a road trip out to Wisconsin for an Ohio State game recently. In Ohio, you cannot gamble on college props, which I actually think now the more and more I think about it is probably a really good thing, because they don't want these players They don't want, hey, Jeremiah Smith had 6 catches for 97 yards. Oh, shit. Well, I had him for over 100 yards in my parlay, and like somebody's sending him a DM. He's like, this kid's 19 years old. He's playing his ass off. Is probably the best player in the country, and somebody's hassling him over a $20 bet. You know what I mean? So it's probably a really good thing that we got props out of the college thing, at least in Ohio. So like in Indiana, you can bet on college props. So it's a slippery slope, but I think the prop betting, we're going to start seeing that, I think, dwindle a little bit as this year, maybe this indictment, this investigation goes on, or maybe it's only like certain amount of players. Maybe it's like, the best 3 players on the team. It's not like the 10th guy on the bench we're hoping to get a steal, or whatever it might be. And like, I'm guilty of this. I love betting player props, especially in the NBA. It's fun, it's entertaining, and that's what it should be. But we're doing it from a legitimate perspective of, we're just guessing what we think is going to happen. We're hoping this is going to happen. And sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't. And like, that's just the nature of betting. You do it for entertainment purposes only. And then when you get some nefarious characters in this, that's when it gets a little shady. So, all right. I just wanted to lead off with that. Anything else on that before we move on?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, let's go to
probably will be more to come.
Yeah, there will be more to come. I guarantee it. We're going to start off just real quickly. We're just spend 5 minutes on the Cavs. And, I just want your overall thoughts. So right now, 3-1, you're scoring about 119 points a game, giving up about 113 a game. So, you're also doing it without two of your top 5, 2 of your top 6 guys, arguably your 3rd best player, your 5th best point guard in the league right now. But Donovan Mitchell's putting up crazy numbers, 31.3 points per game. Mobley's averaging about 9 rebounds. Lonzo Ball's actually leading the team right now in assists with 6.3. The one area where I'm concerned, and I'll let you, I think this will get better, especially as the teams gets more cohesive throughout the year. The one area that makes me a little bit nervous is the rebounds. Especially the first game against the Knicks, like, that's a big team, a lot of wings, a lot of height on that team, a lot of length. But the Cavs were giving up a shit ton of offensive rebounds in that game, and that's what ultimately cost them that game. But again, we're 3-1. We're nitpicking at this point. They're playing really well. They're scoring the basketball at a high level. Again, this is going to be such a fun team to watch. But you got to kind of nitpick here and there. So what's your overall take on the Cavs, positives, negatives so far this season?
Yeah, I think we were all a little guilty after that Knicks game of like, okay, we really came out and didn't play well the first game of the year. Then we go play a kind of a bad Nets team and almost blow a 20-plus point lead. And it's like, oh, shit, okay. This isn't the greatest start right now. But it is sort of like to keep calm and just, enjoy the ride here. It's an 82-game season. In the last 2 games, we picked it up. Milwaukee's a pretty good team, tough team. Giannis is obviously just a freak, literally. And that's always a tough matchup. But like then going to Detroit yesterday, and Detroit played a terrible game, but we also played a great game to go like win that game convincingly against a team that is kind of a difficult matchup for us in that they want to push us around and beat us up, which a lot of teams do. And that obviously is the recipe on how you beat the Cavs. So 3-1, like you're right, rebounding, the toughness from the big guys, the toughness from Allen and Mobley needs to be there consistently night in and night out. But, we continue offensively to be able to get shots whenever we want. And Sam Merrill's been, arguably the brightest star. I think there's some disparity in games played, but he was as of yesterday the second most 3-point makes in the NBA behind Steph Curry. Wow. So Sam Merrill's been amazing. We talked I think a couple weeks ago about the kind of face off with Ty Jerome and Sam Merrill. Was a tough call early on. It seems like we've made the right choice there. Merrill has gotten so much better from 2 years ago when he couldn't even see the floor in the playoffs because he couldn't play any defense whatsoever, to now being somebody that you're going to trust for big minutes, at any point in the season, even when we have all our guys back. He's going to be a huge part of this team. He's gotten so much better defensively, and from a standstill shooting standpoint, he's as good as anybody in the league. So that's great. You mentioned Lonzo Ball, a lot of depth. We'll figure out the rotation, but right now we're sitting 3-1, and I could totally see. I don't know when Garland will be back. I'm not sure when Strus will be back. It sounds like Garland is sooner than later, but we could absolutely be sitting here in 2 or 3 weeks being 8-2 or 9-1 or something. It seems like we can get on a run. We play the Celtics tomorrow night, who are off to a terrible start. And again, outside of a handful of teams in the league, there's a lot of winnable games on the schedule. So I think we're just fine. It is totally a marathon, not a sprint. But I admit that I was, after those first couple of games, was a little bit, like, okay, this doesn't feel great so far. But I feel much better right now than I did a few days ago.
Frankly, we were so spoiled last year with the regular season. I mean, that's outside of one or two LeBron years. That's the best. I think it was the second best in Cleveland franchise history of regular season record. But you go 64-18 with a team that's super young, that's still figuring things out. And like you said, there's so many pieces that are like Sam Merrill didn't even play 2 years ago. Now he is legitimately playing at an all-star level. He's a weapon for the Cavs. I think he's averaging somewhere like 19 points a game right now. It's ridiculous. And those numbers, I'm sure, will come down once Garland gets back, once Strus gets back. His minutes won't be as much as they are. But like you said, we can rely on a guy like that. Lonzo Ball, he's not going to play back-to-back. So he didn't play last night in Detroit, but like, that's good. They're keeping him healthy for the long run because, this team obviously wants to win as many games as you can in the regular season, but they see the bigger picture. They know they got to get shit done in the playoffs. They know they failed last year as a team and they failed the city. I felt like you see Donovan Mitchell, you see, you hear how Darius Garland talks, and it's like they felt like they let the city down. And that's actually a great thing that they feel that way because they're going to come out more and more motivated each game. And one other note too, I mean, it's only 4 games, but 3 of the first 4 have been on the road, and 4 of the first 5 will be on the road. They take on the Celtics tomorrow night. So they got the Celtics tomorrow night back home on Halloween versus the Raptors. And like, we've always hated the Raptors. I don't know why. It's always like I've always hated the Raptors, but
like I said, I still hate it. I still like have a will towards Gary Trent Jr. because he poked Garland in the eye in that first game, and that pretty much was the beginning of what derailed his that entire season for him. But yeah. There's a lot of those try-hard teams though in the league this year. That is going to be. That is where it gets, between, the Magic are like that. We know the Raptors play really hard.
Bulls
the teams we say we don't like are really the ones that that play really hard.
Yeah.
The Hawks are going to be that way. So there's a lot of teams that are going to and like we just said, like the cat's out of the bag in terms of like, how do you beat the Cavs? Like you beat them physically, you try to beat them up physically. You try to make them uncomfortable. You kind of do, maybe pick us full court like the Pacers did last year. The Pacers had a blueprint on how to beat us. The Knicks the year before kind of had a blueprint on how to beat us. So we know that. And that's why I was really encouraged with what we saw last night. Again, it was one game and the Pistons stunk. Yeah. But you could tell early on in that game that they were trying to bully us and we weren't taking it. And that was a good step forward. And a good sign of things to come, hopefully.
And George Mallory even made adding Larry Nance Jr. is a huge deal for this.
Exactly.
Adding Thomas Bryant.
Thomas Bryant will make a difference in this team at some point.
Yeah.
And he could be one of those guys that all of a sudden in a playoff game comes off the bench and doesn't play that much during the season and goes on some type of a run in a playoff game or gives you physicality. So, yeah, that's very true on that. It's a great point on Larry Nance.
And we know this team is like a little bit handcuffed with potential moves they can make. They can make 1-for-1 trades. They can make multi-team trades to get a player, but it's going to take a lot of cap gymnastics to bring in somebody. But we'll see what they do. I think Kobe Altman, Dan Gilbert, and the coaching staff and the players. I think this is by far the best team in Cleveland, and it's the most talented, it's the most well run. You could argue the Guardians are, they get the most out of what they have, but this team is so talented that the expectations are obviously high and high and high every year. But yeah, this is going to be a fun team to watch. So with that said, let's go to another team that's not so quite fun to watch, and that's my transition to the Cleveland Browns. So Cleveland Browns, they were up in this game, and for a little while it was nice to see on the scoreboard. But then the Patriots just end up blowing them out 32-13. You can see the Browns total yardage. They're not doing much. Patriots basically doubled them up on offense, 422 to 213. Passing yards, only 145 passing yards, only 68 rushing yards for the Browns in this game. Quinshon Judkins goes out with a little injury in this game. Hopefully it's not too serious. I haven't heard much about that, but again, the bye week is here, so hopefully he can rest up and get back. But 12 first downs, that's ridiculous. And Dylan Gabriel finally succumbed to the turnover and throws 2 picks in this game. But the Patriots dominated every aspect of this game: total plays, time of possession. I guess we're even again in the turnover differential, which is crazy. But besides that, the Patriots dominated this game. So the Browns dropped to 2-6. They're scoring about 16 points a game. They're giving up about 23, so they're losing by about a touchdown a game. But your thoughts at this team at about the halfway point?
Yeah, you really said it. The one huge positive was Myles Garrett with 5 sacks, and he just continues to be an absolute freak of nature. But also there's a negative with that and kind of some of the sideline antics. But that aside, we have, I think, we try to, there's so much negative energy around the Browns. We try to at least to provide a little bit of positivity, but frankly, there's not much positivity left. And we've been relatively kind with Dylan Gabriel in the fact that he hasn't turned the ball over that much. And, he has managed games and given us an opportunity to potentially win some games.
Yeah.
But we've seen enough to this point to know that he's not a guy that's going to win you games. I think we know we kind of were probably, the vast majority of people probably were like, yeah, this guy doesn't feel like a guy that's going to be a big time starting quarterback. He feels like a backup. Well, guess what? He looks like a backup quarterback. Yeah. He's not making plays. I think you can definitively say from what we've seen so far that he is not the answer at quarterback long-term for this team.
Yep.
So, that then brings up the point, where do you go from here? Because we kind of know what we have in Gabriel, and we know that unless something magically were to turn around, and again, he doesn't have a ton of weapons, but still, you could see like Flacco's serviceable when he has some weapons around him. So the weapons do make a difference, but then it now becomes like, is it Shedeur Sanders' time? Is there a reason why Shedeur Sanders isn't playing right now? Probably. I feel like if he's not playing, clearly Gabriel, whether it's maturity or whether it's just ability or all the above, he's obviously shown more. So what does that say about Shedeur Sanders? Are we hiding Shedeur Sanders and kind of shielding him from playing in a game because maybe we want to trade him and we don't want his value to go to zero? I don't know, but we're kind of getting to the point now where it's like, okay, well, let's just see what we have here. Let's be thorough. Let's see what else we have. And, we are headed towards another shit season and another off season where we don't have a quarterback, and the quarterback of the future is not in this room. And, here we go again, rinse and repeat. And it's just just to further twist the knife, we play the Patriots, who had the greatest quarterback of all time for how many years did he play for the Patriots? 18 years. They get about a 4 or 5 year reprieve where they struggle a little bit. And now they got a guy who looks like he might be there. If he may be another 15 plus year guy. And it's early, but the sky's the limit right now. Drake May is already an MVP candidate in really his first full year as a starter. So it's just even more like, God damn, like, can we just, it's so frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so many people want Stefanski gone, and who would be their ideal coach? Oh, the guy that was in the building last year, the guy that grew up in Northeast Ohio as a Browns fan, the guy that played in Columbus for the Ohio State Buckeyes, Mike Vrabel, who destroyed us on Sunday. And we're going to bring up in a minute some of the words he had to say after that I thought were pretty interesting. But yeah, you're right. And even one of those down years in between the Tom Brady era and the Drake May era, they had Mac Jones, who even got him to the playoffs. One of those down years, So it's like, shit, it's like other teams can figure it out. Why can't we? Why is this organization so freaking cursed? It's obvious, Deshaun Watson trade set us back. Yeah, we get that. But this team still has really good players, but we cannot find the quarterback. Where is the quarterback? What is it going to be? Like you said, Gabriel maybe could be a really good backup in this league. And I would be happy with him being the future backup quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. But I don't think he's going to back up Shedeur, if that makes sense. I'm to the point now where I'm like, you know what? I've seen 3 games of Dylan Gabriel. Like you said, it's fine. We're not going to win. Let's give this guy a little bit of slack too. Rookie. I know he played a bunch of years in college, but first game is in London, England, and basically had the game won. They were up 21. They were up 17-14. Let's not forget that. And the defense gave that one up. So he could be 2-1 as a starter. Then you go into Pittsburgh. That was a shit show. That's a tough place to play. Browns haven't won there in like 23 years, 22 years. And so you can't expect a guy going on his first true road start to go in and win that. And then
the only time we won there was in an empty stadium when the center snapped the ball over the quarterback's head on the first offensive play of the game. And, not taking nothing away from that. It's probably the greatest Browns game since we've been back. But yes.
Yeah. So 1-3 as a starter then, and because you win the Miami game, and then this game's an absolute mess here too. So it just is what it is. Like I guess it would have been nice to either keep Flacco or keep Kenny Pickett, have a veteran.
Yeah.
Have one veteran there, so you're not putting all this on rookies and hindering their development. I feel like to defend the Browns just a little bit, because I have no idea what goes on in that building. We're just speculating. We hear reports. We hear this. You listen to other people talk about what they think might be happening, but it sounds like they're trying. They are trying, to their credit, to bring Shedeur along slowly. Again, we've talked about this. Like, there's so many people out there that's like, oh, they're not playing him because he's black. That is not it. If he was the best quarterback right now, he would be in. We're to that point though now where maybe some guys aren't great practice players. Maybe he shines when the lights comes on. I don't know. But I also saw him take a 25-yard sack in the preseason running backwards. You can't do that shit in the NFL. And if he's doing that against, whoever we're playing, it's just not going to work. So, but I'm to the point now where I'm like, screw it. If we're losing anyway, let's just throw shit against the wall, see what happens. Yeah. And maybe, I do think Shedeur has a higher ceiling than Dylan Gabriel. I do think that. I think Dylan Gabriel is the safer choice, and that's probably why Stefanski picked him. But if Judkins is out, Judy's terrible. What happened to this guy? This guy looked like maybe a top 5 receiver in the league at one point last year. He was catching everything with Jameis Winston, and it's like he wasn't doing anything with Watson. He wasn't doing anything with Flacco. He wasn't doing anything with any other quarterbacks, but Jameis Winston and him have this great connection. But he hasn't done anything since then. And he's supposed to be your number one. He's probably a good number 2 receiver. He is not a number 1 receiver.
I think that's your classic too. Like you see it happen, sometimes, and it's hard to explain. A guy just goes on a good stretch. Because before with Denver, same issues as what we're seeing now. This is the Jerry Jeudy that was expendable from Denver.
Yes,
all the talent. Like he'll make a great play, but at the end of the day, he doesn't have good hands. He doesn't have mechanics, good catching mechanics. A bit of a knucklehead when it comes to making penalties and things like that. And at the end of the day, might not be a winner. I think it's like he's at the end of the day, is a guy a gamer, is a guy a winner, is a guy not so much. He doesn't seem that way. So yeah, to your point on Shedeur, it's time. It really feels like it's time. Let's just see what we got. You just never know. You've coached some people, don't show much in practice, and then all of a sudden the lights come on and they make plays. I agree with you. I think his ceiling's higher, and I think the thing with Gabriel, it's like we've been saying the last few weeks, like, oh, well, he didn't make any bad plays. We didn't really make any good plays. I feel like Shedeur, when we come on, we're probably more likely than not we're going to be like, yeah, he threw 3 picks, but man, there's 2 or 3 plays that he had that were like, holy shit. And if we could just if those plays, if we can get rid of the bad plays, or if we can, temper down the major turnovers, maybe we have something. But I feel like regardless, he's going to make a few plays. And I can't sit here and think of one play that Dylan Gabriel's made that's memorable in his start rate, in his 4 starts right now. Again, he's made some good throws. He's also made some good throws that got dropped. He's made some good decisions, but it's not like, oh man, that 3rd and 16 when he rolled out and got away from the stack and fired a dart. No, we don't have that. So
no. And I got to share this graphic. This was great. This was McNeil on Twitter, but Joe Flacco, hey, our offensive line's blocking a little bit. The guys are freaking just dropping balls. They're open, turnovers. Dylan Gabriel, maybe not blocking quite as well, but then he can't get it to the receiver. Either way, it's just an absolute embarrassment right now as a whole. It's a collective, and we've talked about complementary football. It's like when the defense plays well, the offense can't pull their end. When the offense is doing all right, the defense can't make a fourth down stop on the last drive for the Minnesota Vikings. It's just when we're playing okay against the Bengals, we're dropping passes and then our kicker can't make it. It's just it's always something, and bad teams find a way to lose, good teams find a way to win. And
our version of complimentary football, unfortunately, is everybody compliments Myles Garrett on how well he's playing, and unfortunately nothing else good is happening.
Yeah.
And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't at least touch on, and I want to get your thoughts on, is Myles Garrett going to be a Cleveland Brown next year? I guess what is your take on some of the body language we saw on the sidelines? There you go, right there. And this is not, and I don't see these slides before, so we were thinking on the same page here, but
I skipped ahead a few, but yeah, this is I am in the camp of, I don't know why. I think this was Myles Garrett. I love him as a player. I think he's a cool dude. I think he's a little different. I don't think he's a great leader of a football team, but he gets out there and he busts his ass every Sunday. So I will say that. I love Myles Garrett. He is going to be a walk-in Hall of Famer. However, the worst thing the Browns did this offseason was sign him to that contract. He demanded a trade. He embarrassed the organization on the week of the Super Bowl. He goes on every podcast, every national show saying, I just want to win. And then, like 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, whatever it was, he gets his bag of money. He gets his 40 plus million per year. It's like, I don't feel bad for Myles Garrett. I do not feel bad. He decided he did not live up. He wrote a goodbye letter to Cleveland, and then took the money. So he is stuck here. However, if I don't know salary cap implications and all that stuff, because, if you trade a guy, then you got to eat a lot of dead cap, but who cares? This team's not going anywhere. Eat some dead cap money, whatever. But I would trade him. I would trade Njoku. And I love those two guys. I would trade Jerry Jeudy for a 6th round pick right now. I would trade Jerome Ford. I would trade Joel Bitonio to get him into a better position to a team maybe like the Bengals, who need an offensive lineman, or a team that's struggling, maybe the Houston Texans, somebody like that needs a good offensive lineman that's going to maybe want to end their career as a winner. I would literally trade any one that will not be on this roster in 3 or 4 years, or let's just say, if you can't see them being on the roster by the time they, open up that dome in 2029, I would trade them and keep building for the future. And I don't know who's making those draft picks, and I don't know who's coaching those guys, but I would, as a member of the Browns, and I am not as smart as Paul DePodesta. I am not as smart as Andrew Berry. They are Ivy League educated gentlemen, but I can tell you what, I bet you I could make just as many good draft picks or football decisions as those two have made over the last 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
So
sometimes when you're too smart, you outsmart yourself, right?
Yes.
And you kind of get away from there is and again, I'm not going to sit here and say that I think you said it well, but we watch a lot of sports, so I feel like you watch somebody play on Saturdays and you say, that guy looks like a good football player. And, and then it says, well, he's graded out to be like a 3rd or 4th round pick. And it's like a Jack Sawyer or somebody like that. This guy looks like a really good football player. I really don't care how big his hands are. I don't care what his fucking shuttle run is. I don't care about anything. I watch him play and he's pretty damn good.
He's a winner.
That's what I care about. And you see that so often. And it's hard to, sometimes the way and we've talked about it a lot. The way players are evaluated, we can go into total, open up a whole can of worms on that. But the way players are evaluated just feels like it's completely flawed. But ultimately, yeah, I'm totally with you. It's almost like it reminds me now of the Indians back in the early 90s, where it's like we have this new stadium and we have a team that is absolute dog shit right now with really not a lot of prospects. But as we know, you see it in all sports. NFL is no exception. You can turn it around really fast. Look what the Colts are doing right now. Look what happened. Yeah. It doesn't. It's not like it's NBA. I feel like, well, and I don't know. It feels like you could turn this around quickly. Probably not next year, but it would totally be like, let's 2029 and the Brook Park Stadium is like 1994 at Jacobs Field. Let's have a team that we're excited about a year or maybe 2 years before that. And let's be raring to go when that stadium opens. And it's almost like a rebirth of the franchise. That's
a great analogy. And yeah, I didn't think of it like that, but I mean, that's very comparable. I know we're talking 35, 40 years later. But that's a great comparison. To that, because the Indians were terrible in the late 80s, early 90s. And then 92, 93, you could start, who's this Jim Tomey? Who's this Kenny Lofton? Who's,
Yeah.
oh, Sandy Alomar. Who's this? Like
Joey Bell. Who's this Joey Bell?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He
Yeah.
becomes Albert infamously later. But
build that youth, and then as you get closer to that kind of point, then add the veterans, and add the Dennis Martinez's and the Oral Hershiser's, and and then just be then you're ready to roll like draft day, man. Like coming out of that tunnel on draft day, on the first day in that new stadium, it's like new rebirth, because what we've seen out of the first 25 years of this, quote unquote rebirth of this franchise has been an unmitigated disaster. But the positive is we still love this team. The fan base is we've been knocked down so many times, but we're still here and we're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
we're in it for life. So just get this thing turned around. But I'm with you. I think Myles Garrett, like you could get what, maybe 2 first rounders for him.
I mean, you would think whatever Green Bay gave up for him for Dallas, 2 first rounders and a player. I think that's right there. So again, I don't know the implications if the Browns can even do that, but I mean, there's got to be teams calling about him. There has to be. Like, he is an absolute game changer for a team that is right there on the cusp, So you're not trading him to the Steelers or the Ravens or the Bengals, but the other 20 whatever teams in the league, he's there. They should be open for business. They should be open for business.
He'd look awfully nice opposite Aiden Hutchinson in Detroit.
Yes, he would. And the Browns have, made a trade last year with them with Zadarius Smith. I think sent him up there too. So whatever you can do to, and again, I think it becomes a point too where at some point there has to be a culture shift. Like you get these guys and they're like Myles Garrett is such a great player, but he's so used to losing and he's so used to being in a loser's locker room that at some point you have to change the focus. Maybe you just bring in all rookies, all good locker room guys that are like, hey, that's the one thing where I'll compare the Patriots too. Like, the Patriots stunk last year, but what did they do? They drafted well. They brought in a bunch of good locker room guys that Mike Vrabel knew from his time in Tennessee or around the NFL, and they brought in a bunch of good dudes that are obviously they're good football players, but too, they're good locker room guys. And, that builds a culture of winning real fast in the NFL. So again, I'm not expecting the Browns to not be competitive until the new stadium opens. But I think obviously this year we're going to go through it. Next year, hopefully get back to being competitive, maybe, try to get back to 500. And then the year after that, you take the jump and try to make the playoffs. That's kind of should be the goal. 2 years from now, are the Browns a playoff team? That should be the goal. Whether it's with a rookie quarterback or, you're seeing all these rehabbed quarterbacks around the league, Baker and, look at Sam Darnold and, I mean, look at Indianapolis, Mac Jones is even playing decent for the 49ers. He'll be a free agent next year. Maybe you bring him in on a 1-year deal until you find your rookie quarterback in the draft. So
that's the problem right there. It's like, if you're trying to, you have to change the culture to be able to bring a Daniel Jones in and make him successful, because we're the team that Daniel Jones sucks for before he goes to the Colts and does well. We're the team that Mac Jones plays like shit for and then goes somewhere else. So you have to create that winning culture to then allow yourself to be able to be successful with guys that may not have been successful elsewhere.
And sometimes when you got a bad leg, you can't just keep putting a Band-Aid on it. You got to chop that shit off and put a bionic leg on that thing. So, here's my next question. What do we do with Kevin Stefanski? Everyone around the NFL seems to love this guy. I think all the Browns fans. I just posted a question on Facebook the other day. I said, "Do you keep Stefanski the rest of the year?" It had like over 500 comments in like the first 2 hours of like, and 90% of them were fire him. So the fan base has moved on. The fan base is over the Stefanski era. Are you?
Oh man, it's a really tough one because he's shown that he can be successful in the right situation, and he's won Coach of the Year twice, which is a crazy stat. But it's like I may not have felt like this. Like I am not full on in the like we must fire Stefanski, but I would not be upset in the least if we did, because I'm trending more towards it's time for a change. And when we're talking about changing especially that we just spent a few minutes talking about changing the culture. Well, the culture starts, really on a football team. Yes, it starts with like ownership and front office, but it's really the head coach. So we may have just kind of talked ourselves into it might be time for a change. It's not saying, we've seen a lot of it around and we've seen a ton of it in college right now. It's not like he is a terrible football coach, but sometimes for whatever reason, it stops working out. And you need a change.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have done it so many times, and then you just bring in another guy who's a coordinator somewhere, who's an up-and-comer that is going to come in day one and say, we're going to be the hardest working team in the NFL, and we're going to bring wins and championship to Cleveland, and it's the same shit a couple years later. So, all right, make the change, but figure out what the hell you want and go get it. And find that person. Don't find the best. That's another thing that drives me nuts. We go on all day about this shit. Don't find the best coordinator. It's like you make a best coordinator your coordinator. Your head coach. The skill set to be a head coach is completely different from the skill set of being a good coordinator. So find that leader. Find that transformational leader. Not the guy that was the defensive coordinator, the best defense in the NFL, or the offensive coordinator, the best offense in the NFL, and had all these weapons. There's nothing against that. Sometimes it works out, but more often than not, it kind of doesn't. Bring in the right dude.
Yeah, and I mean, like Dan Campbell, perfect example. Mike Tomlin, perfect example. There's a lot of really good leaders. Here's another one, and this really struck me when this was said. Mike Vrabel said, and this just like legitly took me aback. When their gimmick plays ran out, we played pretty good defense, and that might have been taken out of context. I don't know the exact way he said that, but for him to be in that building in Cleveland last year, for him to a franchise he has respect for, maybe not currently, but like, this is a guy that grew up a Browns fan, and he said, he basically, it sounds like he's talking shit on Stefanski, and it sounds like he didn't have respect for what they were doing either. So when their gimmick plays ran out, we played pretty good defense. And so I guess just thoughts on that comment.
It is interesting. It does seem like whatever our play scripts are coming out of games, we usually start off fairly well with probably what we've practiced during the week. And maybe he was alluding to that, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Really don't know what to make of that.
I just thought that was almost sounded like a shot though. Like
it could have been. I mean, maybe, did he have sights on getting this job when he was kind of hanging around the team last year? You just don't know. But it's an interesting comment nonetheless. But it sort of plays though, because we've seen that, and maybe it's a lack of ability to make adjustments. But like we typically start off okay in a lot of these games. Detroit, like we came out and just had like an unbelievable drive down the field. We didn't do a fucking thing the rest of the game. Nothing. Zilch. Zero.
You could just hear in our tone this week. We're a little extra fired up. Few expletives mixed in here. This team will do it to you. Watching this team long enough will do it to you. And here's another fun stat. So the last year a team won their division. Oh, the Bills last year. Oh, the Chiefs last year. Texans, Eagles, Lions, Bucks, Ravens, Rams. Oh, that's cute. Oh, man. 49ers and Cowboys haven't done it in 2 years. Oh, man. Poor Bengals. They haven't won their division since 2022. Oh, man. The Titans, they stink this year. They probably haven't won their division in like 20 years. Oh, wait. No, it was 4 years ago. Oh, the Bears, 2018. Steelers, 2020. I'm starting to feel real bad for the Colts, 2014. Oh, the Giants, 2011. Chargers, 2009. Dolphins, 2008. Oh, man. These teams are terrible. The Jets and the Raiders, they haven't won their division since 2002. Oh, yeah? Well, that was 13 years still later than the Browns. 1989. I think were we in second grade?
Yeah.
I think we're in
7 years old. That's, oh my God.
I was a second grader at West Boulevard. And to give you some perspective, I taught second grade at West Boulevard for 11 years and have since been out of teaching for about 5 or 6 years. So it's been quite a while since the Browns freaking won their division. That's an absolutely putrid stat. That's a putrid stat. So let's do one more.
Why not? Let's pile on.
When a previous player had 5 or more sacks in a game, his team either won or never lost by more than 3 points. Myles Garrett had 5 sacks versus the Patriots. The Browns lost by 19. 19 freaking points. So let's just those are the only 2 depressing stats I'm going to share this week. So
that's
all right. I think we've said our piece on the Browns. So we'll move on. We'll move on. So let's go to a little last week, this week, and Greg has absolutely been dominating on his picks. So last week he went 11-2. I had a good week too, going 10-3. But Greg has now pulled ahead with a 4-game lead, 78-42-1 on the season. I'm 74-46-1. So overall, we're doing pretty well. Last week we had 6 teams on bye, so only 13 games, but pretty good slate. A lot of favorites covered last week, but the Falcons, I just can't figure them out. We're going to talk about them in just a minute. Just go through a little bit of some of these week 9 games in the NFL. So let's do that right now. Let's just go through our one thought on each game. So we're not talking about Browns and Patriots. Let's go to Dolphins, Falcons, and Greg. The Browns just came off beating the Dolphins 31-6. The Dolphins go into Atlanta and pull off a 34-10 victory over the Falcons. Your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, the Falcons are a complete enigma. Kirk Cousins is done, and as also kind of a Dolphins fan, I mean, that's a good win to see, and it is like as goofy as people like Mike McDaniel is kind of like a nerdy goofball, but clearly like the team has not given up playing for him, so that was nice to see.
Yeah,
but not when you have like the Falcons and a lot of money line parlays.
We might have had 1 or 2 mixed in there. Mike McDaniel, I think he's going to get axed by the end of the year. But again, that's a good sign if his team's still playing for him. They didn't look like they were doing it in Cleveland, but they did it in Atlanta last week. So nice bounce back. The Jets, the only team that was winless in the NFL, gets their first win. Outscore the Bengals 23-7 to win 39-38. Nice win for Justin Fields coming back to Ohio. Your thought on that game?
Yeah, that was really good to see for Justin Fields. He got criticized by his owner, came out, played a great game. And this is the second week in a row that the Bengals played in the best game of the week. That really wasn't expected to be, but turned out to be one of the only good games of the whole week.
Yeah. And two more notes on this game. Woody Johnson, one, is a piece of shit. Like the owner, he sucks. But two, and it's not like we knew him, but like I thought that was kind of like a win, that one for Nick Mangold, kind of game too. So that was it was so sad listening to Rex Ryan talk about him, listen to some of his Buckeye teammates talk about him, but obviously a great Jets player. Multi Pro Bowler, just a good dude too. It sounded like off the field, but had a kidney issue and couldn't get a donor. So just felt awful for him and his family. But hopefully the Jets, football's secondary, but hopefully that was a nice little tribute win for Nick Mangold there for the Jets. Moving on to the other New York team or New Jersey team, the Giants. They fall just after a few weeks after beating the Eagles, but the Eagles bounce back, get it done 38-20. Your thought on that game?
Yeah, I mean, kind of a good bounce back revenge win for the Eagles. It was tough to see Cam Scottaboo go down. He was one of the kind of the bright spots in the NFL this year. I mean, he is a guy and that was a freak injury, but he's somebody that you wonder how long he's going to make it in this league, just the style that he plays. But that was a freak injury. Hopefully he comes back from that, because the league is more fun when your stars or your fun guys are playing. So nobody ever wants to see a guy go down like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Next game, Bills just go into Carolina and just dominate. I think James Cook had like 216 yards rushing. So just a great performance out of him and the rest of the Bills. Your thought on that game?
Yeah, it's just a take care of business win. Maybe the Bills are going on a run here. I think maybe the Panthers might be a little bit of fool's gold, although they didn't have Bryce Young. But
no doubt.
Still.
Ravens scared a lot of people when they said Lamar Jackson was playing, and then he ended up not playing. But they got it done in a must-win game for them to save their season, 30-16 over the Bears. Your thought on that game?
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a warning shot here. We talked about how big that game was for the Ravens, and with some of the things that happened, well, obviously with what happened in Cincinnati and with what happened in Pittsburgh, I think now the Ravens are favored in the division, and Lamar is coming back, and you kind of feel that run coming.
Yep. And hey, former Browns quarterback Tyler Huntley gets the win in that game.
Yeah.
So another former great Browns player gets it done there. Texans. This game kind of surprised me a little bit, but Texans 26, 49ers 15. Your thought on that game?
Texans are a very, very good defensive team. Stroud played really well in this game too. I think the division's probably out of reach for them, but they are a team that can make a run at the wild card, I think, with the way they play defense.
No doubt. This line, I saw this line. The Buccaneers were only 3.5-point favorites coming into this game against the Saints. I thought that was a little fishy, so I ended up staying away from that. But Bucks win 23-3 over the Saints. They bench Spencer Rattler, throw in their Tyler Shuck, and so they're gonna see what they got at quarterback the rest of the year. They might be picking in the top 5 going into next year too. So we'll see. Your thought on that game?
Yep. I think the Spencer Rattler era is over, but the Bucks are, I believe they have a bye this week. They need it. Baker has not looked good the last couple of weeks. They still have a great record. They're still in a really good spot, but they have to get healthy. And it'll be interesting to see how they come off the bye.
Absolutely. Next one, Broncos 44. Cowboys 24. Broncos pretty much just dominate this game from start to finish.
Yeah, every time you think the Cowboys, maybe they're gonna, seem like, oh, great offense, maybe they can make a run, and they really no-showed in this game. Broncos look like a team that dark horse AFC candidate. So yeah, it was but really just more disappointing on the Cowboys end, because this felt like a game that they could win and maybe get themselves going.
Yeah,
they just no show completely.
Yeah, and I think that Broncos, with the team we're going to talk about in a little bit, that's going to be a very interesting race for that AFC West the rest of the season. Colts 38, Titans 14. Colts moved to 7-1 on the season, highest scoring team in the league. Your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, there's the total juggernaut right now. They're playing probably the best of anybody in the league, and that's what good teams do is they come out in a game like that and leave no doubt and take care of business. They did that. Jonathan Taylor is just out of this world right now.
Absolutely, Wisconsin Badgers proud right now of
right.
Jonathan Taylor. Chargers 37, Vikings 10. That was that was the Thursday night game, though we don't need to talk about that one, but they got that one done handily. Sunday night's game, Packers 35-25. Packers just basically blow out the Steelers in the second half. I saw first win for Green Bay in Pittsburgh since 1970. Interesting stat there.
Holy crap. That is. Yeah, that was like, that game was going along the typical Steelers primetime script. Rodgers was well on his way to beating his 32nd NFL team, and the Packers came out of that second half completely dominated. Once again, we're seeing that this vaunted Steelers defense is not that good, and we just said the Ravens are coming, and I think the Steelers have the Colts this week, so it's a little bit of a danger zone right now for the black and gold.
Absolutely. It's going to be an interesting next few weeks, especially in the AFC North. And then last night, a little bit of a sluggish start, Commanders and Chiefs, couple picks early on for Mahomes and Mariota, but the Chiefs end up just pretty much dominating this game from the second quarter on, 28-7. Your thought on that game?
Yeah, Chiefs are rolling right now. They look great. They have so many weapons on offense. They play great defense. And the Commanders, unfortunately, I know Daniels is out. They just feel like that team that is, call it a year from hell, call it whatever, call it a regression. But, they feel like they may fall out of the playoffs. Well, they already are out of the playoffs. But they may not come back into the playoffs.
Final thought on the Steelers here real quick, too. Thoughts on these uniforms?
Just god-awful, horrible.
I think they're the worst. I actually do, as a Browns fan, I kind of cringe saying this. I actually do kind of like the helmets. But I don't know. It must be the pants or something. But, those uniforms are just – looks like a club soccer team jersey with – pants that don't really match, that look terrible. I don't know. So, I'm not.
I think they were 1936 uniforms. So they're like, Steelers are going to come out wearing their uniforms from 1936. Okay, great, fitting tribute. We're not. We don't. There's not a lot of shit. You don't see car. I don't. Were there even cars in 1936? It's going to sound.
There was. Yeah.
Nobody's. I mean. There's shit that just belongs in 1936. That's before fucking World War II. Leave it back there. It's pay homage with a patch or something. Do something at halftime. Do something on the scoreboard. Leave the goddamn uniforms at home.
We're just bitter Browns fans right now. We're trying to find all the little wins we can. But I will say I do kind of like the helmets. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But some things are not meant to be brought back from the past. All right, let's take a look here at the AFC North. So here are your updated standings. Browns now take their rightful seat at the bottom of the week, but the Steelers now plus 175. They were basically even money last week, and there you go. The Ravens minus 105 at 2-5 to win the division. They host the Dolphins in 2 nights from now on Thursday, and they're a 7.5-point favorite. The Bengals, who blew it against the Jets, they're an underdog against Chicago at home. And then, like you said, I don't know if this line has changed, but Steelers host the Colts, so they're getting that 3-4 point Vegas bump for being at home, but I think the Colts, a lot of people are going to like the Colts at 3 or less in that game. So interesting numbers here.
Yeah, and I know we talked about last week, like what would you do? And we said like probably the Steelers still. If it was like the old gun to your head, I would now take the Ravens.
Yes.
Especially because they play the Steelers twice. So right there, like that could be a tie with a tie break just off of the two games they're playing each other.
Yep.
And yeah, it just feels like, again, it feels like it's starting to turn. Like, that the Tyler Huntley game, they could be talking about, oh, that game that Huntley played and that Lamar was out last minute and we got that win. That got us going. I feel like a 10-7 or a 9-8 coming for the Ravens, and that might just be enough.
Yeah. I think you're right. I really do.
And if you want to light, we could take your choice. You could put $20 on the Browns at plus 3,000, or next week you could just light a $20 bill on fire on the show. And I can tell you right now, you're going to have the same result.
Either way, you're a winner. Speaking of that, here's a race for the number one pick. So there are 3 teams with 1 win, the Titans, the Jets, and the Saints. There are, 6 teams with 2 wins, Giants, Browns, Dolphins, Raiders, Ravens, which we already talked about. They're going to have a lot more wins, and the Cardinals. There's 6 teams with 3 wins, 4 teams with 4 wins, 8 teams with 5 wins, and then 17. The Colts are the only team right now with 7 wins, which is crazy. 7-1. Green Bay's right up there with only 1 loss. So they do have the 1 tie. And ironically, Green Bay's 1 loss is to the Cleveland Browns, which is wild too. But so this is through 8 weeks. Give me your bottom 5 teams in the NFL.
In order or no particular order?
Any order. Give me your worst team and then the next 4.
I think worst team. I would say Titans worst team.
Okay.
Probably then the Saints, then the Browns, then the Jets. And probably, I'd still probably say Dolphins.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think Titans, Jets for me, I would list those 1-win teams. I would just put them as 3 right now. Browns and I'd put the Browns just ahead of the Dolphins for beating them. So Browns, I'd probably put the 5th worst team right now. But the Cardinals look terrible. The Raiders look terrible. So there's a lot of bad teams right now in the NFL. So the Browns are in that bottom quarter of bad teams. And so they're going to be picking in the top 8 for sure. And then we'll see if Jacksonville comes back down to earth and maybe gets them another top 12, top 15 type pick. We'll see. Yeah. But, it's going to be an interesting draft. And I hate talking draft and it's not even freaking Halloween, but, that's what we got to do some of these years with the Cleveland Browns. All right, let's move on to this week's picks. We're not going to spend a ton of time on this, but we actually have 4 different picks this week. So the bye week teams, the Browns, the Jets, the Bucks, and the Eagles are on byes this week, but we both like Baltimore to beat Miami this week. We are split. I like the Bears. Greg is on the Bengals. I like the Broncos. Greg is on the Texans. I like the Jags. Greg is on the Raiders. That would be an interesting game there. I like, and probably the best game of the week, I like the Chiefs. Greg is on the Bills. Anything else on that list stand out to you?
No, I don't think so. I mean, anytime you have I feel like, has there been a bad Kansas City Buffalo game in the last however many years? So that is that in and of itself kind of gets you excited for the week. Outside of that, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh's interesting too. I think that's
we're both on the clock on that one.
Yeah, that is a test. I mean, the Colts have passed every test so far. They look truly like the best team in the NFL right now. But Going to Pittsburgh, as we know, for many reasons, is never easy. And, Pittsburgh is going to be hungry coming off that loss. So I'm very interested in that. And Denver, Houston, I think will be a really good defensive game. Two extremely good defenses. We talked about Houston. Denver's got a phenomenal defense. I think that'll also be a good game. Outside of that, I'm not seeing a whole lot of other, really great games. But like we said, who would have guessed Steelers, Bengals, and Bengals, Jets would probably be the two best games of the past 2 weeks. So
right. Yeah. So
and Giants, Broncos. So it's like you never know what you're going to get. You'll get a few surprises, I'm sure.
Absolutely. So it should be another fun week. There's probably some games if you're you want to take that $20 you didn't burn on betting the Browns, maybe throw it on a money line parlay. You got a few favorites in there. You could stack a few of those 3-4 game parlay. I am off teasers. I'm not a teaser guy. So, but there's a couple good money line parlays out there. All right. Real quick, want to touch on the Youngstown State Penguins before we get to the Ohio State Buckeyes. But the Youngstown State Penguins, who are currently ranked number 17 in the country, will take on the absolute powerhouse North Dakota State Bison. I would say I'm gonna just make a statement here. If North Dakota State was in the Big Ten, I think North Dakota State would be in the top half of the Big Ten. I think they are that good that they could beat at least 10 teams in the Big Ten. I'm not saying like if they played the entire Big Ten schedule, but I'm saying from week to week, they could beat a Minnesota. They could beat a Nebraska. They could beat Illinois maybe on a given week. They could beat UCLA. They could, I don't know if they could beat Penn State, but like this year, who knows, but
did they play Colorado last year? Was that the team that played Colorado last year?
They played Colorado and took them absolutely right to the wire. I think they had a Hail Mary that they even caught at inside the 5-yard line that was just short of winning the game. So yeah, and I mean you could see, in their schedule, they're playing, they're playing FCS schools, but they're dominating as they should. But this team is a legit powerhouse. And again, I think if they played in the Big Ten, they could be possibly a bowl eligible team at like a 6-6. I think they're that good that they are just dominating their opponents. Does that mean YSU cannot beat them? No, but Bison are a heavy favorite in this game. So
yeah, what is the line? Is the line?
It's in the 20s. I don't know exactly. I want to say it's like 24 or 25, which is pretty high.
Pretty high.
But again, you're going to Fargo, and that's a tough place to play. Penguins have they played the number 2 team in the country. I guess now the number 4 team in the country. Real tough a few weeks ago, and they lost that game by 5. That game was at home, and that's a different beast. So, just wanted to bring that up. And also, you have Bo Brungard for YSU, who we have talked about like 3 or 4 times on this show, but he is one of the leading candidates for Walter Payton, the Player of the Year, which is basically the Heisman Trophy of FCS football. And I have a stat here somewhere. I just want to share this if I can find it real quick. But he is legitimately, sorry, I'm trying to look for this. So in 8 games this year, he's 67% passing, 1,879 passing yards, 13 passing touchdowns, 991 rushing yards, which is number 4 in all of FCS, 14 rushing touchdowns, so 27 touchdowns total. He also caught a touchdown last week. And he's averaging 358.2 total yards of offense in FCS, which is number 1 in all of FCS. So thought I would just share that.
That's like Tim Tebow numbers.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
He's putting up like even go back to like Steve McNair way back when he was up for the actual Heisman Trophy. But yeah, he is playing some great football for YSU. And I was a little bit worried at the beginning of the year that they were going to run him to death and he wasn't going to make it through the year. But he seems to be playing his best football right now. And YSU has a great offensive coordinator in Mike Yursich, who was Penn State's former offensive coordinator, Oklahoma State's former offensive coordinator. He was the quarterback's coach for Justin Fields at Ohio State. So this guy's been through it. He knows what he's doing. So we'll see what YSU does. I'm not expecting a win, but I'm hopeful that they can be competitive and possibly pull off an upset. It's been 14 years since they pulled off an upset and beat number 1 then North Dakota State in Fargo. So again, just thought I would share that. So we are going to move on here to the Buckeyes. Bye week coming off. Hopefully, Ryan Day would call it like a get right week or whatever. Try to fix anything that's ailing them. We talked about the run game. We talked about maybe the offensive line. We've talked about some of the issues in the special teams game. So hopefully whatever they would see on tape, they could fix themselves and figure it out. But I want to share this too. So this is just the Buckeyes that were drafted last year in red. So 14 of them, 8 of them were on defense. 8 players on defense were drafted into the NFL. And I believe all 8 have either started or are currently starting in the NFL. And this defense is somehow better this year. So it goes to show, like, again, what coaching, what culture and all that stuff do, because you're returning Caleb Downs on defense. You're returning Sonny Styles, 2 guys that are going to be in the NFL. You're bringing back Arvell Reese, who's probably going to be a top 10, top 15 pick in the NFL draft. And you're bringing back Davison Igbinosun, who's going to be probably, if not a first round pick, probably a day 2 pick. So you have a lot of talent on this team, and you're going to lose a whole bunch more next year. But this just shows what coaching has done, because this defense has legit only got better from last year, which is crazy to say. So what do you think Jim Knowles is going to think walking into Ohio Stadium on Saturday?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm sure, I know that he left. There was a little bit of, I don't want to say he left on bad terms, but I mean, do you ever really, when you go to take your same job at a rival, it's not really ever going to be on good terms. So I'm sure like the human being in him is going to feel emotional coming back to a place that, where he won a national championship and had a lot of success. I think, he'll probably, the competitor in him is going to be excited to take on this challenge, but probably the realist in him is maybe going to be, the stomach's going to be churning a little bit, thinking about that this is going to be a pretty tough matchup for both his defense and probably more so the Penn State offense in this game. So, I think, and we're guilty of it too. Like we've kind of shit talked Knowles a little bit, but yeah, I mean, ultimately he did win a title here. He did, he did well as a coordinator. And that being said, let's kick his ass on Saturday.
Yep. And that's why I saw that spread and I'm like, I'm betting if it's under 3 touchdowns, I'm betting it. Cause I think there's going to be a little extra motivation to hand it to him a little bit. And this defense is so good. I don't think they're going to give up a ton of points, but it is still a very talented team. They are a wounded team, and you don't want to take them lightly. So hopefully, and I'm sure Ryan Day and the coaches have emphasized that to this, group of guys, that this team is not to be taken lightly. I mean, we had to run out the clock on them last year to win in Happy Valley by a touchdown. we had to, or they were what, maybe 2-3 plays away from making it to the national championship game last year. And yeah, their quarterback is out. Their backup quarterback is a Columbus kid that's going to be starting in the Horseshoe, which is crazy. So it's going to be an interesting game on Saturday. It should be a fun
game. Ryan Day said as much in the press conference too. And this team was preseason number 2. The talent on the Penn State roster outside of Drew Aller being injured hasn't changed from, that number 2 ranked team preseason. They have dudes. They have 2 great running backs. They have a really good defense. So, they're very capable, and they're coming off a bye week. And they're coming off a bye week, and Dave mentioned this specifically. Coming off a bye week, kind of had a coaching change. They got 1 week kind of with the new coach, but that was a chaotic week with everything going on with Franklin. So now they really have had 2 weeks to put together a lot of things that are going to be different from anything that they've ever put on film. So, again, you could, every week we've said, we don't take anything for granted. We don't take anything for granted, but we've been around. Ohio State, Penn State is something I'll never take for granted as a fan. Because we know that Penn State's going to bring a physical brand of football, and we're going to have a challenge on our hands no matter what the records say. We got to come out and play our game.
Yeah, and we've beaten them. What, we're going for 10 in a row, I believe it is.
Yeah.
But how many of those games did we have to come back or won by 1 or 2 points? In that streak. So it. Hopefully Hopefully this game is well in hand early in the second half, but hopefully the Buckeyes come out ready to play and like you said, can kick some ass on Saturday.
It kind of reminds me of the Wisconsin game, but a better, a more talented team.
Yeah.
But they're going to be physical, but the problem is just going to be how are they going to get points with kind of a new quarterback and an offense that have been struggling already? And they're probably going to be run heavy. And as good as their running game can be, you can't be one-dimensional against our defense. You can't even really be two-dimensional against our defense. But if Grunkemeyer can't throw the ball down the field, they're going to have a really hard time moving the football, I think.
Absolutely. Cool stat here. Since Ohio State is 7-0, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, 5 games left, and obviously we know there's a big one at the end that we want to finally put to bed, a losing streak. But Woody Hayes took over the coaching job in 1951, so we're talking 74 years ago. How many undefeated seasons, including ties, so just no losses in a season, has Ohio State had since Woody Hayes became head coach?
Just regular seasons, or is this also
just regular season?
So 75 years, give or take. 12.
12 exactly. That is nailed it exactly. So here, I'll put this up on screen. But 1954, 61, 68, 70, 73, 75, 79. Then not again until 2002, 2006, 2012, 2019, 2020. We have not had an undefeated regular season since 2020, which isn't that long ago.
And that was kind of an abbreviated one. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we were 6-0 or 5. I think we were 6-0 in the regular season, won the Big Ten title, beat Clemson, and then lost to Bama in the championship that year. But we have the opportunity to get number 13 this year. I just thought that was an interesting stat.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
Because, especially when you see the gaps, especially from 79 to 2002. So basically, all of the end of the Woody Hayes era to the Earl Bruce era, John Cooper era, and then finally Tressel's second year wins that national championship. And then, with Urban and with Ryan Day, we've kind of become spoiled a little bit. especially after Tressel. So Tressel has a couple of those. Urban had one of those only, but with one national championship. But like, it's interesting to see because you don't see 2014 on there. You don't see 2024 on there.
Yeah.
The two national championship years. So just thought I would share that as an interesting stat. So let's go real quick to some of the games last week. Ohio State obviously on a bye. Indiana gets it done against UCLA, just blows them out. Texas A&M handles LSU which Brian Kelly gets locked out and fired. And then there's been all these crazy stories about Brian Kelly that have just been like coming out of the woodwork this week, which is, I love it because couldn't happen to a bigger piece of shit than Brian Kelly. And I think anyone that's a Notre Dame fan, anyone that just doesn't like Brian Kelly in general is probably, even though he's getting his money, he's getting like $800,000 a month, I think, from LSU. But that guy is a world-class piece of shit. So well done, Brian Kelly. Enjoy your don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. Ole Miss got it done in Oklahoma. BYU pretty much dominated Iowa State in a kind of a high-scoring game. Vanderbilt looks really good. Cincinnati looks good. Illinois blew its shot. If Illinois would have beat Washington, I think they could have been the fourth Big Ten team to get in the playoff, but they're going to be out now. The best they can finish is 9-3, so they're not going to get in. And Houston's pretty damn good. They knock off Arizona State. So anything from last week, really, stand out for you?
I mean, aside from the obvious of Brian Kelly, it was like the videos of like the basically Texas A&M fans like taking over Tiger Stadium. I mean, doing their weird chants.
They are weird,
but nonetheless, very impressive, and like that is something for a proud institution like LSU for that to happen. I think it was done already, but like that was, it's crazy. Like we talk about this all the time, like how, like, how close Penn State was to beating Oregon in overtime. LSU was winning that game at halftime. It looked pretty good. And then they just got their doors blown off in the second half. And Brian Kelly, like he normally does, none of this is his fault, clearly. No. So he's just cussing out everybody that he could possibly be cussing out, taking no accountability. And it was just like, and maybe if it wasn't as lopsided as this, maybe he still has a job, but there was kind of no choice left. But
he's lucky he got hired by anybody, being a murderer too. So
yeah. I mean, especially, I mean, that was one again. Like we all like to be like, and I'm not gonna sit here and be like, I told you it wouldn't work. But I think a lot of people, when that happened, was like, that seems like a round peg in a square hole, and the weird like.
Remember that video of him going around in the circle?
Yeah, and the speech he did at the basketball game where he kind of did the Southern accent. I just feel like
family.
It's like LSU. I was talking to somebody about this. I don't even know, but it was like LSU feels like a job kind. And now they haven't always had it, but like. I think you got a better shot there if you're kind of at least from that part of the country, like an outsider coming into that. Like, I love Louisiana. Like, New Orleans is awesome. Like, I spent some time down there at work. Like, but it is like going to a different country when you're down. It is a different world. They basically speak a different language. It's English, but it's not in it's like Bobby Boucher English. But like I just feel like an outsider coming down there to winning cures everything. But this guy just felt like he was completely out of place there from day one. Ed Orgeron, say what you want about that guy. Like he was endeared himself to that. Like he was a Louisiana guy. You couldn't understand a word that came out of his mouth, and they loved him.
Mm-hmm.
So Brian Kelly was behind the 8 ball from day one. Now, if he went and won, it'd be a different story, but it just never seemed to work. And I think he lost the opening game with the exception of Stephen Clemson this year. He lost it. So he basically, almost blew the title candidacy for all intents and purposes week 1, and
Yeah.
he just never got it going. And all the kind of ugly sides of him came out, and yeah, I think it's validation for Notre Dame fans, because I think he went to LSU to go to a place that had more resources to win a national title, and look at what Notre Dame's done since he's left, and look what LSU's done while he's there. So good riddance. See you at Southern Miss or wherever his next job is. I'm sure it'll, and hey, Penn State, actually, you know what? Penn State, like, you got a great candidate down there in Brian Kelly. You should hire him. Like, he will do wonders for you.
Bring him in and schedule us game 1.
Bring him in.
Yeah, Penn State, like, let's get him in your door right now.
Don't let this guy slip through your hands.
We're going to talk about some of the other vacancies in a minute, but here's what's coming up this week. Buckeyes host Penn State. We already talked about that game. We'll give our predictions here in a little bit. Hoosiers at Maryland. Georgia at Florida, world's largest cocktail party down there. Vanderbilt at Texas. That's maybe the game of the week. Oklahoma at Tennessee. Cincinnati at Utah. Navy at North Texas. I threw that one in there because I thought that was an interesting matchup, but I already mentioned Youngstown State travels to #1 North Dakota State in Fargo. Kent State and Akron, we're getting some action next week on Wednesday and Tuesday nights. And Mount Union still continuing to roll and dominate. They are the #2 team in Division III right here in the 3-3-0. So what stands out for you this coming week? Anything you're looking forward to, obviously, besides the Buckeyes?
Yeah, I think 3 elimination games there, like those kind of middle, all those ranked games there feel like all elimination games, right?
Yeah.
Utah's probably already out. Well, I guess they could win the conference. So
they could win the conference,
Yeah, so kind of 3 elimination games there. Indiana at Maryland. Maryland is not a bad football team at all.
No.
It's actually interesting. Like, I saw a soundbite of Signetti, and he did his kind of best. Like, Lou Holtz used to do this years ago, and a lot of coaches do this, but you should watch it if you haven't seen it. Like, he goes like a minute and a half on Maryland. And when he's done, I think even the tweet said, like, he talks about them like they're the 1985 Bears, but he went through their entire and just, like, you hear him talking, you're like, shit, Indiana's in trouble. But so they're obviously giving it the attention that it deserves. But I think that's, we've had some weird games over the years.
Maryland, that's a tough place to
could be, in what seemingly is kind of cruise control to the Big Ten championship for Indiana. This could be one of those games that gives them a little bit of a hard time.
Yeah. And Maryland, I'm pretty sure, has been starting a true freshman quarterback the whole year. So, that kid's just getting better and better. So it could be an interesting game. So I'm staying away from that one, but I'd expect Indiana to get the job done there. They look at times, they're #2 in the country for a reason. They look like an absolute powerhouse right now, and good for Signetti signing that contract. All right, let's do our prediction here for Ohio State and Penn State. So Penn State, you can see the schedule. Started off 3-0, very easy schedule to start off the year, and there was even some struggle in there against, I think, like FIU and Nevada even. And then you go to the 2 overtimes with Oregon, and then it's all downhill from there. UCLA, who was terrible at the time, you go out to the Rose Bowl, get blown out. Well, not blown out. You were being blown out, and then made a comeback, and UCLA got it done. Northwestern, again, remember, if I said, like, they gave James Franklin his first loss and his last loss. And then Iowa, they fought valiantly and probably could have won that game. But they couldn't get it done on the road in a tough place to play at Iowa. So their schedule is going to do them no favors the next 2 weeks, at #1 Ohio State this week, and then home for the #2 Indiana Hoosiers next week. So what is your score prediction on this game? So Buckeyes lead the series 25-14. Ohio State won last year 20-13, has won 8 straight. I actually think that's 9 straight. I need to check that number. But either way, Ohio State 7-0, 4-0 in conference. Penn State 3-4, 0-4 in conference. The spread on FanDuel was 20.5 with 43.5 total points. So, Greg, your thoughts on this matchup?
Which that is interesting because I think at the start of the week it was I had seen 17.5, so it has gone up. That could be weather related too. Maybe the weather's a little better this week, but I think it's also just maybe the realization of a new quarterback coming into Ohio State. I'm going to be pretty boring in this prediction and go like fairly chalky as terms of the over under and the line. I'm going to say 31-10 Ohio State. I just think when, like I mentioned earlier, Grunkmeyer, the Olentangy kid, it's great for him to have this opportunity. I don't know if he grew up a Buckeye, whatever, but sure that I'm sorry, my computer's yelling at me here. I don't know if he grew up a Buckeye fan, but I'm sure whether he did or not, coming home is always special. So, I wish him well in his Penn State career. I don't wish him well on Saturday, and I just think they're going to have a hard time scoring points ultimately. Even if they had Drew Allen, they'd have a hard time scoring points. But I think especially with an inexperienced quarterback. But that being said, I don't think we're going to necessarily light them up offensively. But hopefully we can, get the passing game going. Hopefully we can get a little running game going. But I think it's a fairly, workman-like 31-10.
Okay. Yeah, I have 38-13. I like the Buckeyes to cover. They are, depending on what app or whatever you're betting on, Buckeyes are either 6-1-0 on the spread or 6-0-1. The OU game, some people had a 28, some people had a 28.5. So either way, they're basically 6-1 against the spread this year. So they are good teams win, great teams cover. And Ohio State is doing their job this year in all aspects. So I like 38-10 Buckeyes to get it done. Either way, let's just get out of here with a nice win. But I think the extra incentive of Jim Knowles offense versus Jim Knowles defense, maybe wanting to keep Penn State down and maybe show out against the Jim Knowles team, maybe gets it done. I've also heard rumors of Brian Hartline's name being mentioned for a Penn State job. I don't think that would be quite the right fit. We would hate to lose him, but I also don't think that's the hire Penn State wants to make, even though, like, for recruiting and wide receiver coach, he's one of the best in the business. But basically being a first year OC to being head coach at a top 15, top 10 type program, that's a huge leap. And it's kind of a Buckeye through and through. Would you want to go to your one of your rival schools too? So I don't know about that. What do you think about Brian Hartline possibly being?
Yeah, I had just heard that today. That it would certainly suck to lose him if that were to happen. I'm kind of with you. That is a big leap. And yeah, I know, it is interesting. Your ties to your alma mater are one thing, but if somebody's dangling a $8 million a year offer, that is another thing too. You can, you could get used to the blue and white pretty quickly if you have that. But yeah, I don't know what to think. I would guess I wouldn't think it's going to happen. And I think it would be a really tough spot. I mean, you talk about going into the fire really quickly. But Marcus Freeman didn't have head coaching experience, and that worked out for him. So,
point.
Yeah. So I would, and it just, it's. We've been able to keep him around a long time with raises and new opportunities and things like that. I mean, I'm sure at some point he's going to leave. Will it be this? We shall see.
Yeah. And when you got a good thing, sometimes it's hard to leave. But how many millions will it take to pull him away? But yeah, that would be Ohio State's loss in that situation. But I just don't know if that's the right hire for, and Brian Hartline too, another 3-3-0 guy, but we'll see if what happens there. So let's take a quick look at what the playoffs would be if they started today. So same four as last week: Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, and Bama. Now Memphis makes its appearance now in the top 12. They are, I believe, number 18 in the AP poll, but they would get the Group of 5 spot. Vandy and Georgia basically just flip sides of the bracket. Ole Miss and Miami basically just flip sides of the bracket, and BYU and Oregon still same matchup there. Again, things are going to change like crazy week to week, but this is what it would be, and this is kind of fun. It's kind of fun speculating. I think the committee gets together next week and they put out their first top 12. But first four out right now would be Notre Dame, Texas Tech, Tennessee, and Virginia. And again, you and I have said it, I think, literally since Notre Dame was 0-2, that if a 10-2 Notre Dame is getting in the playoffs. So
then that's feeling more and more likely. Although Pitt now feels like a much tougher game than
that's a good point
than we had thought. But yeah, it certainly feels that way. I would love to freeze frame that bracket and fast forward that into December with being able to get like a Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech. Nothing against either of those teams, but
yeah,
that would be a good matchup. But yeah, I think right now it feels like, we say it's like every week it kind of changes, but it's like Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M feel like they're cut above everybody else right now. Bama is still Bama. They're dangerous, but boy, did they struggle against South Carolina. But the opportunity when you look at that bracket to like potentially have Indiana in the Big Ten championship, and then possibly have a route to the championship where you could play 2 or 3 SEC teams on the way. And let's just say it's like Vanderbilt, then Alabama, then Texas A&M in the national championship, and you beat Michigan and you beat Indiana, like that would be probably the ultimate dream scenario.
Yeah,
we can all dream. We got a long way to go, but it certainly is shaping up to, that matchup with the Hoosiers for possibly the 1 seed, and then to win a national championship, as we know, we did it last year with 2 SEC teams. You probably got to beat at least 2 SEC teams to win the title, no matter how things go.
Looking at that, so you have A&M, Alabama, you have Georgia, you have Vanderbilt, you have Ole Miss. Who else am I missing? So is that 5? You have five SEC teams in there right now. So there's a good chance that they're going to have at least 5, if not 6. So we shall see. All right, one more bracket here before we close out the last couple minutes of this show. All right. Who's coming out of this bracket? These are all the 12 openings in college football right now. So I gave LSU, UCLA, Florida, and Penn State the byes. But I mean, Virginia Tech's a good job. Arkansas a good job. Oklahoma State, they got
a lot of money there. A lot of money. Yeah.
Stanford, that's a good job. So which one of those jobs, if you were a head coach being pursued by all these teams, which job would you take and why?
Yeah, I think out of all of those, you could really, the LSU, Florida, Penn State, you could probably make an argument for any of those 3. I personally think LSU is a top 5 job in the country. SEC, again, it's kind of like it's tradition rich, Death Valley, like crazy fan base. It's a state, it's like Ohio State in that you have there's nothing else in that state from a true like competition standpoint, as far as like I guess what I'm saying is as far as like the fan base. So you're all Louisiana is all in basically with LSU, like Ohio is more or less all in with Ohio State. So you are effectively the face of that state.
Sure.
So, I I would take LSU, but I would probably be smart enough not to take it because I'm not from down there, and I don't think
Right. Yeah. From what you said earlier.
People very well. So, but
All
just
right.
on a straight job standpoint, I would take LSU. What about you?
Let me flip that on you then. Which job would you least want to touch?
Out of all these?
Out of all of those.
Oh God.
I mean, you got roots here in Youngstown. That's not too far from Kent.
Yeah, like I would I honestly don't even, I mean, like I guess I wonder like what's going on with the whole Pac-12, like what's going on with like Oregon State. Oregon State feels really weird. They're just like in limbo right now. I know, aren't they working on some kind of,
they're going to be in the Pac-12 next year. So
they're going to be there, so they're going to have a Pac-12.
Them and Washington State and a bunch of the Mountain West teams, and so yeah, they'll be back.
I would just say like I don't think there's a whole lot going on in Corvallis, Oregon. So I would probably like say because either all these other jobs, it's either UAB or Oregon State for me. Would be like kind of pass on that. The rest of them, like at least Colorado State, you're in Colorado. Like Kent State, you're in the 3-3-0. So
right.
Arkansas is a tough spot because they're kind of like what would you call the Arkansas, like the Big Ten? It's probably like
Illinois,
like a Minnesota, like maybe Illinois, where it's like, man, a lot has to go right just to go like 10.
You got that Walmart money in Arkansas.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Stanford, I think Stanford would be kind of a cool job to take. I mean, it's and Oklahoma State, like you said, they got that oil money. Virginia Tech is a proud history. A lot of openings, and you could probably add. You very likely will be adding Florida State to this by the end of the year, and potentially some others. So, a lot of openings, and not a crazy amount of coaches to take them. Like
right. Yeah,
you have everybody's got your Nick Saban, Urban Meyer like pipe dreams, I think, on some of these, but I don't. Do you see Saban or Meyer taking any of these jobs?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No way. Like
no Saban back to LSU.
No, he's happy in retirement. I think he gets to talk football every week. No pressure, making probably more money than he was making coaching. He's in a good spot, and he's like mid 70s or early 70s too. I mean, at some point too. I know, like, if you're a football lifer, but like he's at College Game Day every week. He's in the environment. He's talking football, so it's not like he's out of the game. He's living it, but he has like a stress-free way of living it, and I think honestly that's probably the best way. Plus, he's making a shit ton of money for ESPN and Aflac or Geico or whatever he's doing too. So,
and it shows, man. The guy, he looks great. He looks freaking great for his age.
Yeah, he does. And
but I mean, not all being said, these guys are kind of psychotic in a way too. And it's like they want the, it's just
gluttons for punishment.
They are. It's like that the competition like starts chewing at them.
Yep.
And they want to get back in. It's like, I can win one more. But yeah, I'm kind of with you, but nothing surprises me.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be 100% shocked, but I would put a 0.5% chance that Urban Meyer or Nick Saban ever coach again. So we'll see.
That's probably fair. So then that puts you in, like, if you're LSU, it kind of puts you in that like Lane Kiffin, like Eli Drinkwitz kind of world. And there's Lane Kiffin will probably have his choice of jobs, but Lane Kiffin is not a slam dunk hire.
No,
he's done a really good job at Ole Miss, but he's failed in other places. He's brash sometimes to a fault, and he hasn't been able to kind of win the big one yet. Now,
I also think he's pretty smart fiscally, where he will use that as leverage to to work a new contract too. So
that's one where it's like if I'm coaching Ole Miss and like, there's obviously high expectations there, but not LSU level expectations. Like that is kind of one of those, like, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. If you can make a few more bucks and stay in Ole Miss, why not do that?
Exactly. All right, real quick, Big Ten rankings. I just threw this out. This is, it's really after the top three. You get 4, 5, 6, kind of like you can put them in any order you want. 7 through 12, you can probably put in any order you want. And like 13 through 17, you can probably put in any order you want. So it's, it's a cluster. It was just a fun way of putting these fun logos out there. But
what is that Indiana? What is the Indiana?
So they have it's like a bison. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess that's apparently a thing with Indiana. I just realized the last couple of weeks. So I put out some sort of like bowl or something that I found, like an old logo, and some Indiana guy gave me a bunch of shit for it. So I'm like, I'll find the bison for you. So these are just AI images, but I thought they'd be kind of fun. And real quick, so I every week try to do a different ranking or things. I got this was great. Like, so last week I did Big Ten teams as Halloween candy. And I mean, I think that drew over 500,000 views on Facebook and Twitter, which was great. But this week, I actually like this one better. This was Big Ten teams as Halloween villains. So I'm just going to read a few of them. So Ohio State, Grim Reaper. They show up on your schedule and your season's over. They're armed with 5 stars and collecting souls every Saturday. Thought that was pretty good. Indiana, Frankenstein. They're built from leftovers of stronger programs, but can be terrifying when fully assembled. Oregon, Ghostface from Scream. They might not always be the scariest killer in the room, but they're entertaining, stylish, unpredictable, and ready with a perfect one-liner. Sounds like Dan Lanning before slashing your playoff hopes. Michigan, Dracula. Old money, powerful, aristocratic. Thinks they're superior to everyone else, and they kind of are until someone finally drives a stake through their heart. Iowa, this I thought was a perfect one. Michael Myers, silent, emotionless, somehow unstoppable despite zero personality. Wins ugly, but always comes back with a knife-sharp defense. A couple of my favorite ones, Nebraska, Freddy Krueger. Once the stuff of nightmares, dominating college football dreamscape in the 90s, but now mostly haunts people through nostalgia. They used to make entire programs wake up screaming, but these days most opponents sleep soundly. Still, every so often, they claw back into your subconscious. And then UCLA, Chucky from Child's Play. Terrifying force in the 90s, striking fear into everyone who crossed its path. Every new coach is like a new movie sequel. You think it's time, you might be good again, but somehow it's still the same chaotic little man with a knife and a dream. And then, you got a few more in there. I'll share that out, but you guys can read those. But again, thought I'd throw that in there for Halloween this week. So it should be a good time. Hopefully Ohio State gets it done this weekend. We'll real quick, I'll just shuffle through these. You guys can read them at your will, but hopefully Ohio State and gets it done against Penn State this coming weekend. And I got to throw this one. This was my favorite one from last week, though. The Michigan Snickers claims it satisfies better than anyone else. Very popular, very reliable, slightly smug about it. Also, what everyone not in their fan base does when they say they didn't cheat. So that was probably my favorite one.
Good. These are really good. These are
I come up with the idea on my own and then let ChatGPT help me a little bit with some of the wording on them. But yeah, these are good time. I try to do them every week. I'll post them out either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. But yeah, so hope everyone has a good Halloween. Everyone has a good sports week. Browns are off, so we know our Sunday is going to be good. But hopefully the Buckeyes can get it done, and college football continues to just be great like it always is. So any last thoughts, Greg, before we close out here?
No, go Bucks. I will be there on Saturday. So I got to break the curse for my younger son because he's
He's been
unfortunately
through
in
some tough ones.
the last two Michigan games. I think he's been to some in between, but we're gonna kind of break this little run he's on. We'll get a nice win on Saturday, and probably may or may not be the last one I go to this year. We'll see about the last two.
I'm looking forward to either coming down for
either
Rutgers or UCLA. So
yeah, so it's the last really kind of meaningful home game on kind of a weird home slate for the year. But go Bucks, let's get it done. Let's talk next week with 8-0 and moving towards what could be a special rest of the year.
All right, let's go. Go Bucks. All right, thanks guys for watching. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, tell a friend. 330 Sports Show on Youngstown Studio. Everybody have a great rest of your week.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow